Hi, I welcome you all for this session on session tracking. Okay, so far we have been discussing about how servlets are deployed in the server and how your server-side scripts act as an intelligent scripts to retrieve data out of the database, cross-verify, and give the return back in the form of HTTP response to the client system. Okay, so whenever a client system is submitting an HTTP request to the server in the form of a servlet, now the server has to give the response, that is HTTP response object, back to the client. Now in this process we call this complete activity as one session. Okay, so what is a session? Session is nothing but a network connection between client and the server. Okay, a session is a conversation between server and the client. Okay, so a conversation is nothing but a series of continuous request and response. So as I explained you just now, the HTTP request starting from HTTP request to serving the servlet, that means the servlet operation is done and giving you back the response of the servlet is nothing but request and response, and it is a session. Okay, so an object which maintains the state of clients in web server is nothing but a session. It facilitates the exchange of information between client and the server. So why is this session required? Why should you maintain this session? That is very, very important. Why do you think that session information need to be maintained? Whenever you are performing any online shopping, right? So the time when you are logging in, all your activity, what is the type of catalog that you are visiting, right? And based on the amount of time that you are spending on each of these products, product reviews, etc., the website is able to predict your sense, your thought process, that what is your idea of shopping and what is your taste and what is your behavior and what is your requirement. Okay, based on that the website is going to give you some options, some recommendations. Okay, this is a simple example. Okay, why the website requires your session to be tracked. So that is one point. And secondly, suppose in your banking websites, etc., where you are performing any transactions, that time also it is trying to give you in such a manner. Okay, your session is being tracked. So when there is a series of continuous requests and response from client and server, in order to avoid any hacking or any other threats that are likely to come in your process, so the server will try to identify your session or track your session and maintain the details about the session. Okay, so server cannot identify from which client it is getting requests. So when there is a need to maintain the conversational state, session tracking is required. Okay, so based on which, suppose you have done some online shopping in between and then you are changing your browser tab and you are doing some other activity, coming back again and you want to look about where did you leave back your shopping cart, right? You want to revisit back. So all these activities can be done very easily using this session tracking. Okay, so after that there are 4-5 techniques of performing the session tracking activity. Okay, firstly starting from user authentication. What is meant by user authentication? Whenever you are logging into your account, your corresponding account, using your login credentials, that is called as user authentication. Okay, so and then the next one is hidden form fields. There are some form fields which are hidden from your user. Okay, which will also try to take up the session tracking required attributes. Okay, then there is URL rewriting. Okay, then there are cookies. Okay, and then there are session tracking API. Okay, we will now see one after the other, each one in detail. Okay, so the session tracking techniques that are traditionally used for tracking all the server-side technologies. Okay, so here the APIs are built on top of the first 4 methods, and now you can see the first one is user authorization. The user will provide username and password to log in to the application. Okay, and then you have these hidden fields where the input type is hidden, name is technology, value is servlet. So here the hidden fields like the above can be inserted in the web pages and information can be sent to the server for session tracking. These fields are not visible directly to the user and but can be viewed using view source option from the browsers. So this type doesn't need any special configuration from the browser, and this cannot be used for session tracking when the conversation included the static resources like HTML pages. That means whenever you are designing some hidden fields, the type is mentioned as hidden, okay, and the name is given as technology and value as servlet right now. So these tags are invisible to the, they are not printed anywhere, they are not visible as any components on the screen, but they are helpful for you in the servlet programming, which help you to serve you as an aid to track the session. Okay, so these fields are not visible directly to the user, and they are viewed only in the view source option, and this type doesn't need any special configuration from the browser. So now the session tracking can be used as a conversation which is included in the static resources like HTML pages. Now coming to URL rewriting, the original URL whatever you are having and the rewritten URL, you can please observe the two things. Okay, so original URL you are seeing this as servlet bar servlet name. Okay, please understand carefully that server colon port number. So I have already told you about the different port numbers in the last session. Okay, different port numbers are the codes that the script is using. Okay, based on the port number it will identify what is the protocol on which the session has been configured. Okay, so rewritten URL, you can now see the rewritten URL is nothing new except for the last addition, that is session ID is added as the last question mark, session ID and the number. Okay, this additional parameter will be session ID or sometimes the user ID, and we need to keep track of the parameter as a chain link until the conversation completes. Okay, see whenever in your Zoom classes or in any of your these things we have meeting ID, right? Meeting ID is equal to, and we are giving something, right? So that's exactly the same. Okay, until the meeting concludes, that ID will be the unique ID for all the users who are participating in that particular meeting. Okay, now comes a very important topic called as cookies. Okay, standalone also they can ask you about what is meant by a cookie. This is really very important topic. So cookies are mostly used technology for session tracking. Okay, cookie is nothing but it is a key value pair of information sent by the server to the browser. Now immediately every one of you all, I will give you a small exercise to do it on your own computer. You can go to your C drive, wherever your browser is loaded, C drive, program files, Internet Explorer or Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox, whatever browser you have. You get into the browser software and get into the individual folder of cookies, and you open the cookies folder, you will get all the complete activity of your sessions. Okay, maybe so far if you have not visited, you can see now that your computer browser, that means that your browser has visited the complete browser history of websites, whatever your browser have visited. All the sessions are generated in the form of cookies, and sessions are not generated in fact all the session information is generated in the form of cookies, and they are already stored in your computer for your information. So please do visit and please have a look at your own computers. Okay, so cookie values can uniquely identify a client. Okay, cookies are sent using the HTTP headers. So this should be saved by the browser in its space in the client computer, and whenever the browser sends a request to the server, it sends the cookie along with it. Okay, 20 cookies per site. Okay, and 300 total per user. So user system can store maximum of it. Okay, cookies size is limited to 4 KB, that means 4096 bytes. And the disadvantage is the users can opt to disable the cookies using their browser preferences, the size limitation of cookies. Okay, and cookies creation and retrieval. So sending cookies from a servlet to browser, that means you can create a cookie my cookie is equal to new cookie, and you can give the user ID and followed by the whatever value you want to give as password or whatever it is. And from the servlet to the browser, whenever you want to add or request, so you can write it as response.add cookie and my cookie. Okay, whenever you want to read the browser cookies, you can do it using the request object. So that is just like cookies is equal to request.getCookies. Okay, if cookies is not equal to null, then in that case you can start with if for I equal to 0 cookies dot length, and you try to print all the names and values of all the cookies. Okay, so now if you want to delete any cookie, you can write the same thing, and you can use the my cookie name. Okay, and you can set the maximum age of the cookie in terms of seconds. Okay, so if you make it the maximum age to 0, that means it is automatically deleting the cookie. You cannot delete any cookie because by default all these cookies are gathered in your own local drive and they are further used by the server. Okay, so right now you can see that it is because you can set the maximum age to 0, then automatically it is deleted. Okay, that's about cookie. In the next session we will see about session tracking APIs. Thank you.